The Vikings were more than just raiders. They were pioneers of exploration, masters of the seas, and founders of civilizations that shaped the course of history. Emerging from the rugged and often unforgiving landscapes of Scandinavia, they built their legacy not only through warfare, but also through trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. For over 3 centuries, their influence stretched across continents, leaving an indelible mark on Europe and beyond. Their story is one of conquest and adaptation, of bold exploration and political transformation, culminating in an era that saw them rise as one of the most formidable forces in medieval history. The Viking Age officially began in 793 AD with the infamous raid on the monastery of Lindisfarne, located on an island off the northeastern coast of England. This brutal and unexpected attack sent shockwaves throughout Christian Europe, marking the beginning of an era of relentless Viking expansion that would last for over 250 years. In their early years, Viking raids were small-scale hit-and-run attacks, primarily targeting coastal settlements in England, Ireland, and France. Their swift and deadly incursions often left villages defenseless, as no European force at the time could match the Vikings' naval speed and maneuverability. However, as their power and organization grew, these raids evolved into full-scale invasions and permanent Viking settlements. No longer satisfied with mere plunder, the Vikings began seizing land, establishing strongholds, and integrating into local societies. By the early 9th century, Viking warriors had established permanent footholds in Ireland and Scotland, using these locations as bases for further expansion. They soon turned their attention to the Frankish Empire, where they launched devastating attacks on the cities of the Carolingian dynasty. In response, Emperor Charlemagne and his successors attempted to defend their territories by building fortifications along key river routes. However, the Vikings, with their advanced longships capable of navigating both open seas and inland rivers, easily bypassed these defenses, raiding deep into the heart of Frankish lands. The Vikings were no longer just opportunistic raiders. They had become an organized military and political force, one that European rulers struggled to contain. The height of Viking power, 9th to 10th century. The 9th and 10th centuries marked the golden age of Viking expansion, during which they became one of the most dominant military and economic forces in Europe. Their reach extended far beyond Scandinavia, with Viking warriors, merchants, and explorers venturing as far as North Africa, the Middle East, and even North America. Viking conquests and settlements in England and France. One of the most defining moments of this period was the invasion of England by the Great Heathen Army, 865 to 878, a massive Viking force that sought to conquer the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. This formidable army, led by legendary Viking warriors such as Ivar the Boneless, Halfdan Ragnarsson, and Ubi, quickly overwhelmed much of England, capturing key cities like York, Jorvik, and establishing Viking rule over large parts of the country. Although the Anglo-Saxons eventually resisted total conquest, thanks in part to the leadership of King Alfred the Great, who successfully defended Wessex, the Vikings still retained control over a vast region known as the Danelaw, where Norse laws and customs prevailed. Meanwhile, in France, Viking raids grew increasingly bold and relentless. The Franks, despite their efforts, found themselves unable to stop these devastating attacks. In a desperate bid for peace, King Charles the Simple granted land to the Viking leader Rollo in 911 AD, officially creating the Duchy of Normandy. This granted the Vikings a permanent presence in northern France, and their descendants, the Normans, would later shape European history, most notably when William the Conqueror, a direct descendant of Rollo, invaded England in 1066. The Vikings in the east, the Rus, and the Byzantine connection. While Western Vikings, Norsemen, focused on England and France, another Viking group, known as the Varangians, set their sights on the east, traveling along the vast river systems of modern-day Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. These Vikings established the foundation of Kievan Rus, a powerful medieval state. The city of Kiev became a major Viking trade and political center, controlling lucrative trade routes between Scandinavia, the Byzantine Empire, and the Islamic world. Some Viking warriors even became part of the Byzantine Varangian Guard, an elite group of Norse mercenaries that protected Byzantine emperors and served in the empire's most dangerous military campaigns. This Byzantine-Viking alliance is a testament to the global reach of Viking influence. Unification of Scandinavian kingdoms. During the 10th century, Viking power became more centralized. Previously, Scandinavia had been divided into many small warring chiefdoms, but powerful rulers began unifying these lands. Harald Fairhair united Norway in the late 9th century. Harald Bluetooth of Denmark, R. 958 to 986, introduced Christianity to the Danes and expanded Danish control over Norway. Olaf Tryggvason and Olaf II Haraldsson continued Norway's consolidation and further promoted Christianity. By the end of the 10th century, the Scandinavian kingdoms were evolving into more stable, organized monarchies, signaling the gradual shift from the raider culture of the early Vikings to structured medieval states. The early 11th century marked the final peak of Viking dominance, with King Knut the Great creating the largest Viking empire in history. Knut, originally the King of Denmark, conquered England and Norway, briefly uniting a North Sea empire that spanned across 3 major kingdoms. However, this unity did not last long. Following Knut's death, his empire quickly fragmented, and Viking power began to decline as European kingdoms became stronger and more organized. The decline of the Viking Age, mid-11th century. Several key factors contributed to the end of the Viking Age. 1066, the Battle of Stamford Bridge. In 1066, Norwegian King Harald Hardrada attempted to invade England, but was defeated by the Anglo-Saxon King Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. This battle is often seen as the symbolic end of the Viking Age, as it marked the last major Viking attempt at conquest in England. The rise of stronger European kingdoms. By the mid-11th century, European states such as England and France had developed professional armies, advanced fortifications, and stronger defenses, making Viking raids much less effective. The spread of Christianity. With Christianity spreading throughout Scandinavia, many former Viking warlords converted, abandoning their raiding traditions and integrating into European feudal society. The shift from raiding to trade. By the late 11th and 12th centuries, Viking communities had transitioned from raiders to merchants and settlers, focusing more on trade than plundering. Conclusion: the Viking legacy. Though the Viking Age ended, their impact on history was immense. The Vikings shaped the development of England, France, and Russia through their invasions and settlements, influenced European culture and language, with Norse words and traditions surviving today, pushed the boundaries of exploration, reaching North America, Vinland, centuries before Columbus. Though their dominance faded, the Vikings' legacy as fearless explorers, warriors, and seafarers remains deeply embedded in history.